Welcome to About the Albums. This time we're talking about Surviving Sam. And this album is another compilation. Um, it's a compilation of basically a bunch of instrumental things I did here and there. Some of them from albums I did that were instrumental albums, some of them just one off things I had out there. Originally, I had a thing called Inventing Sam, which was taking a lot of stuff that wasn't on an album and turn them into these 4 volumes of albums worth of songs. But they're all instrumental. A lot of them, for some of these, there's a lot of songs that I later made into other songs and whatnot. And these are just some surviving pieces that I think mostly haven't been made into songs or anything yet. So, with words in them or anything. So that's what I'm doing here, and that's mostly all there is to it. The best of these that could survive on a single album's worth of songs. So these are ones that have survived multiple cuts over the years, as they are, and hopefully these will be good and interesting. Let's see. Intro Jam was the first song on the album Havin' a Jam. And because it's called Intro Jam, I guess it felt fitting to put it as the first one here. And it's the whole album of of Having a Jam was actually, aside from like a couple songs from there, mostly songs I'd already done a bunch of times before, but all done with I guess the preset drum beats and stuff, but with that specific like bass tone and piano tone. I just kind of picked the same kind of tones for all these, I think I layered those for most of, like, the stuff I was doing. So that was kind of the idea behind having a jam, just jamming out with those things and making it all feel sort of the same. And actually the art I used on that is what is, like, the holding up, like, the shield, or the sword and shield thing that I've used on my channel's, like, art for a long time. So that's kind of neat. But it was mostly just like a neat little thing that was pretty simple and was kind of meant to get you kind of like pumped and like ready, but also it's kind of a little boring and methodical to get you just to kind of like start you off, get you like ready and in the mood for more stuff. So that's Intro Jam. Breaking news. This came off the one-offy things that went on to the Inventing Sam thing. But this song was actually based off of originally something I did in the game MTV Music Maker for the PlayStation, and there were a bunch of like little like clips of like audio things, so you can make it sound like a newscast was talking about stuff, or whatever. So that was kind of fun to throw those in. But I figured out how to play the riff on my keyboard. And I didn't know how to do much else around it. Even this is still like the standard drum beats from the keyboard on it. But the tone sounded pretty close to what I found from the game too, so I just kind of tried to recreate that a bit. It's just kind of, about the idea that there's all breaking news headline things, but mostly it's just a lot of that was carried originally by having audio clips in there. But that was a song I don't have anymore, so we won't be hearing that later. That's just where it is here and now. Meadows of Forever is another one that's just kind of out in the ether there. And it's kind of inspired a bit by I believe, and I could be remembering this wrong, but I believe it's a bit inspired by The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, where you go into I think it's the Faron Woods. It all looks very pretty, and I know, just the idea of like going into like this lovely meadow. You also notice in this that I didn't record this like I didn't have it recorded and then have it play back a recording, because it was all just me doing the guitar part. So since it's all one track, I just played it on there so you can hear the clicks of the keys as I'm hitting it. That's mostly it, though. It's still kind of a pretty little song, but you know, the name's neat, I guess. Plasma Vision. There's another kind of random one out there. It's one I actually kind of really forgot about. And I guess the name I don't think is super fitting for the way it sounds. I just probably thought the name sounded cool, and that the song sounded cool, and that was good enough at the time. But it's, I don't know, I kind of just like, it's a neat riff. I clearly had like that riff, and then it was like, okay, I'll just kind of play around with that a little bit. And I do like the little thing at the beginning, also ties into like the ending thing, a little play on it, so that's neat. But yeah, Plasma Vision is just a neat little song that was cool enough to keep on here and fit. And while it's not super memorable to me personally, I think it's alright. It's kind of neat. I don't know. Plasma Vision. Dim Windows came off of The Way of Sleeping, and that was largely me using a bunch of weird, like, kind of like airy instruments and a few like higher like bell chime things in there as well for a lot of it, just to kind of make it about, you know, sleeping and the idea of like kind of drifting to sleep and dreaming about things. So this one's called Dim Window. Is just an idea that like it's kind of like it's starting to get dark. It's not actually all the way dark yet, right? But like the windows are very dim because it's getting very dark. Either because it's getting dark on the outside, or potentially you're outside looking at a window that's dim because the lights are low. People are about to go to sleep. That kind of feeling. That's what I was kind of going for. With dim windows. Sam's Halloween Jam is a remnant of a thing I used to do on the channel called Sam's Halloween Special. It was a thing I did before I did the Sam's Halloween Variety Hour thing, and I've since deleted those, but this song was done for one of them, and I believe it was actually the only thing I really did that year. It was probably the third one or something, second or third one I did like that. And it's just a fun little like Halloween kind of jam thing. Like it suggests, I used every track I believe on the keyboard. It's very much just like put that thing out there. It's jamming, it's grooving, and just put more things on top of it. And it's interesting to me because I mean this also made it onto a thing called Sam's Halloween Music. I just put a bunch of this Halloween stuff together for them from the Halloween projects. And this I think it's just interesting that a lot of my stuff sounds so samey, and this, while you can kind of tell I've had my hand in it, hands in it. It's like it just feels weird that I can make stuff so different for Halloween things, as opposed to most of my other stuff. It's just like for some reason I'm able to put on like that style for that and make it work. Whereas usually I'm just kind of flowing with whatever comes to me first and then working with what comes out. So it's kind of interesting in that sense. But there's not a whole lot to it for this. It's just kind of, doing that stuff. The thing is that it's also, you can tell all the instruments, I did everything, even the drum beats for me, instead of using one of the things that was preset on the keyboard. So that's also kind of neat for me. I don't... for a lot of this earlier stuff too, especially a lot of that, I didn't really do any of that. But having something like that where I did all the parts, like that's cool. It's nice, especially for older things to hear that I was still starting to get into that and doing that, so I didn't have to rely on presets. Instead, I can use me sets. We'll cut that out. Sam's sweet piano piece sounds kind of silly to put right after Sam's Halloween Jam. Very dumb of me to do that. I just thought it kind of fit to put there, I guess, with the order of things, anyways, as far as how they sound and whatever. So, this is one where, again, it's just kind of a random one-offy kind of thing. I actually redid it on the album Awesomeness, which I think is also down, which was just me using these tones to make it sound like an NES game, so I capitalized the NES and Awesomeness. Get it? Made a neat 8-bit version of myself by horribly pixelating a picture via MS Paint. Anyways, this is pretty much just, a thing I thought sounded really cool on piano. I really like that I kind of found this and that I was able to play it. It felt cool to play. The way it sounded, it was cool. It just felt really impressive to me at the time that I was able to make something like that and play it. But again, you hear the clicks on the keyboard because I did it all in it's all one track, so what does it matter? And not realizing you'd hear all the fucking clicks when I record it. And also, as another fun bonus, between shots here, I noticed that the button on the coat is all dangly. I knew the string looked like crap on it, but it's really dangly too. So get in the pool now. Place your bets on when that's gonna actually fall off the jacket, because as promising as this is and happening in the second episode, I can't promise he's gonna be there though. Well, if you can't see it, who cares, right? We're gonna forget the pool. No pool, no swimming allowed. Get out of the pool, get out of the park, get out of my house. So Space Station Alpha is a track from the song Space Station Central, which was mostly just about a bunch of different. Every song was titled Space Station something or other, and it was all done as just a cool space thing. Look at all these cool space stations and things in space you would find, and the technology of them and stuff. How they'd all be different from different people or races or whatever, at different creatures, that kind of thing. And this would have sounded really cool and gets you really pumped. And I mean, it's just neat. I almost kept this entire album, but I didn't. I was really debated on it, and I liked pretty much almost every song on the album, but because it's all instrumental, I don't know if I wanted to keep instrumental stuff. I'd rather just make it into songs where I sing on them. So I've had a hard time doing that, and I just wanted to keep some of my favorites, and this was one of them. So there you have it. There it is. There you go. There it goes. And there we go. As you might expect, Montage is a song that made me think of a montage in a movie or something. It came off of Other Stuff, the album Other Stuff, which was basically just a bunch of things I had recorded that I didn't think were fitting anywhere else, and then I put them together on that. And this is one of them on there that I always really liked, and it just kind of made me think of not a training montage, not a Rocky, I gotta go beat the shit out of somebody, so I gotta train montage, but more just things are happening, and we're just time is passing, and we're trying to show that with this while this music plays over things. probably things where also like you wouldn't have any like audio or whatever from the things. We'd be focusing on like the song. And I think I even originally put in the description for that one, I was like feel free to use this for your own montage videos. And as far as I know, no one did unless they did it and or they didn't tell me. But what would be the point? You know, you think you would tell me. So there's no reason for me to believe that happened. But still kind of neat. I think it's mostly based on like the cool like there was like the tremolo effect on one of the electric pianos. Like just the tone had that already on the keyboard, and there was this a thing of strings that had it on it as well. So I just kind of based it around using those two, and like the effects made me think of that kind of like time is just kind of like passing as we're going through this, or we're doing this stuff that has to get done, but isn't exciting enough to really show you in its entirety, like a montage. Like a montage. Real big. Just sounds real big. It had a really big sound to me, which is why it got its name. But yeah, just like the tone of like the having that organ tone and that like synth tone layered on top of each other. It's a pretty simple progression for this, and I obviously played around a bit during there. But this is one that was an old one floating around in the ether for quite a while. And I always just thought it sounded pretty cool, even though it was, still using like the preset drum beat with it. And it wasn't, it wasn't a great song for like the composition of a lot of it. Just that general progression and tone there. Like I really like that. It really resonates. And at some point, I maybe should make that into a song. A lot of these I should just make into like songs where I have words with them and more structure and more things going on. But I just haven't. So maybe that's an idea. Maybe it's not. We'll see. I mean, what is an idea really? No one will ever know. Just like the Tootsie Pop thing. But I can't really say it because it's trademarked. In fact, I might have to bleep out Tootsie Pop, but I'm already editing enough on these, so I won't. But pretend I did both times. I left those on there. I failed math class. That right there was me failing math class. Bells of Eve, Until the Day is an older song, actually. It's one that I've been doing since, like, the tapes. I think as early as, like, maybe the fourth tape I recorded. And I guess I just liked the sound of that, and it's kind of interesting that it's a happier one. I don't do lots of those. I don't know if you can tell, I guess, but it's based on Christmas, the idea of being Christmas Eve, and originally the song was Bells of Eve, and this extended one is Bells of Eve Until the Day, because it's got like more to it. So it's the idea of like Christmas Eve, and then going to bed or whatever, and then like whatever, and then waking up, and it's like, oh yeah, I've got it's Christmas now. You've got all the Christmas now. So it's one that it is a little long, but also, it's one that I'm kind of glad was able to survive because it's neat, and I like it. So it's kind of cool that this is one that I remember, and it's still gonna be around for a while, and remember it at Christmas time, maybe, or don't. I don't care. Some people think I care about things, but I don't. SpaceFace is a song from... I start a lot of these the exact same way, don't I? Is a song from a concept album I did called Struggles in Space. Another one I kind of toyed with the idea of maybe keeping. ultimately didn't. And it's just kind of a concept thing of like, this group of like people who are trying to defend the galaxy or whatever, and then this evil villain in space comes through destroying planets and stuff, and so they're trying to go and stop him. And it's kind of like I had a story and little pictures and text on like the things. It was really interesting to me. But these were like there was like 3 or so bonus tracks on it that didn't really fit in the narrative or anything I wanted to do that much, and this was one of them. I didn't really know where to fit it or where it would be. It was also pretty simple and kind of unlike some of the other stuff, which is more like space opera esque, I guess, space adventure and I was like, all right, well, but like I thought this was cool. Also, just like a neat one to throw in. It's just a little song too by itself without the different like little motifs and everything from that. So I kind of like that, and so I kept it here. It's maybe a bit long because it's kind of repetitive. It's actually fairly repetitive, but I see why it is as long as it is with the way it is, just because I really like it. Even now, I still really like the tune. It's very catchy, and also and it's pretty simple, like the deconstructing like parts of it and whatever. And then just that tone is I thought was really cool too. I can't remember exactly what it is. I think it's like some kind of like, is it like a synth tone, and then it's all like that's like more of a flat, I think, like solid note, and then the wavery thing is some kind of other like I think it's like some kind of Middle Eastern instrument or something. I have to try to find it at some point, but like I can't remember exactly what the combo was. And it was just I just thought it was sounded really cool together because it kind of gave like the waviness, but also still like this straight like techno-y, roboticness to it. It sounded cool. Name is pretty dumb, but there's no spaces and F is capitalized in the middle of it, so it's got style. The Legend of Sam proves that all you need to sound like you know how to play piano is a sustain pedal and a dream. But mostly a sustain pedal. There's me just kind of playing around with that, and I guess it sounded vaguely like maybe like a fairy fountain thing from The Legend of Zelda. I'm just a big fan of the Legend of Zelda series, so that's mostly why it's called The Legend of Sam, which is also a little thing I made like a picture of. It's my icon. I think it's still on my YouTube and most of my places where I am. So you'll notice that I made in MS Paint. Kind of playing off the name of that. I just always kind of liked that. And it's an okay little piano song. It's not anything great. It's pretty simple progression and everything. But again, it just sounds like I know what I'm doing because I'm using a sustain pedal. About 10% of what's good there is me. The rest is the sustain pedal. And I think you can still hear kind of the clicking on when I'm hitting the keys too, because the sustain pedal doesn't get rid of that. I mean, you can't complain about the sense of humor I have here. This is perfectly serviceable comedy. That's okay comedy right there. Bass-O-Matic Track 1 is the first track from the album Bass-O-Matic, right? Okay, fine, whatever, fuck. So, the thing is, Bass-O-Matic was an album I did that was just me mostly, doing like, playing around with bass tones for pretty much all of it, and I did in this song you hear I did my own drums and everything too, which is why it kind of gets off kilter in part of it. But it's still a pretty neat little, like, really short thing to kind of kick off the album. And the thing is, this album I did is all one shot. I think it's only, like, It's not even that long. It's very, very short. I think it's only like maybe 15 minutes or something it was. But I used to record albums and put them up in like these like essentially I used to put them up for a little while as here's like all the individual songs and here's the full album as just one video. And then I eventually got rid of those. But during that time, I think I made this as this one huge thing. It's like, it'll be the whole album, it'll be all the tracks, but I won't have to name all the things. I'll just make it one big thing. Bass-O-Matic is the full album. Just throw it up. So, Bass-O-Matic is still just Bass-O-Matic. It's one big thing. But I didn't want to put the entire thing on here. The entire thing wouldn't fit on here. And some of the stuff I think was repeated or done later. So this track was one that I hadn't done later or repeated or whatever. So it was cool. I kept it. And that's the short, vaguely interesting Bass-O-Matic story behind putting track 1 after the name. Space Station Central is the titular track from Space Station Central. End scene. But this one I just thought was a really cool way to start out the album. It's actually the first song on the album. In fact, I actually forgot that when I recorded the thing about Space Station Alpha the first time, and I said it was the first one, and it's not. So I re-recorded that part, and now I'm just ruining all of the fixing I did by saying it now. But that's okay, because, you know. And it's just a really cool way to start the album, or kind of slowly, like, so it's kind of quieter, it builds up, and, like, I love when those fucking, like, timpani hits go in there, and it just sounds, it sounds fucking awesome, and I don't know, it's the way it really builds up, and I don't know, I guess the idea, too, is, like, the central space station, like, this is, like, where all the space stations come together to roost. Do space stations roost? These are things I cannot answer. Because these are just concepts, they're ideas. I didn't put words in here for us to analyze. We just have to think about these things and wonder and ask ourselves, what is philosophy really? Into the Blue is one that I remember, like I remember the image I had with it. It was like a picture of like the sky and a bunch of clouds. I just Google image searched it when I put it up there, for my video, but it just kind of made me think of like going out like into like the open blue sky, and the tone on this is kind of interesting because it's like a piano, and I don't know if that was a specific weird piano tone that had the clicky thing on it also. Those weird almost like woodblocky clicky things, or if there was also just another tone that I layered on top of it so that it would do that every time I hit those. But having that extra clickiness kind of make it like keep that beat and had an interesting like extra layer to the sound of it, even though it's still used for the actual beat was just a preset beat. I don't know, I've always found it kind of neat. The song is a little long though, and repetitious with what it does, because at the time I just liked it so much, and now I still like it, but like I don't know, it could stand to be a little shorter, but it's, I don't know, it's still an interesting one, and I'm kind of glad this one also made it into the Surviving Sam playlist to live on as a song I'll always look back on and say, oh yeah, that. Hey. Event of the Year is a song I still really like. I've always really liked it. It's one that I guess I've never really tried to redo. or make into a song where I sing on it. But I really, really like it. Just the cool, like, I'm using the split function, so part of the keyboard is doing bass, part of it is doing the guitar, and the drum track is just a preset. And like even the solo-y bit in the middle is kind of cool, but the main like riffage, there's like the two parts, and the one riff is kind of like not sustaining notes. It's more punchy. It's like that reminds me a lot of Home Movies, the show Home Movies for some reason. I don't know what it is about it. Kind of sounds kind of weird, and like quirky like that. A little bit. I don't know, and I don't know, just something about like how it's just like so like catchy and like cool and kind of like quirky. I don't know. I end up really really liking it, even though it is really simple and kind of repetitive. Um, it still really sticks with me as one of like my favorites that I remember from like way back doing this. Not quite back to the tapes, far back, but when I was first uploading just random songs and stuff, this was another one of those where I remember doing this and really liking how it sounded. So, event of the year. Really the title didn't really say a whole lot. I guess just like it sounded like something like cool is happening, like a party or something. You know, it's the event of the year, and it kind of just went along with that vibe a little bit. Um, I don't know. What do you guys think? Leave it in the comments, or don't. I don't. I don't know. Does anyone ever do it because you told them to? I don't know. Event of the year though. Cool song. Sam's Piano Jam. Not to be confused with Sam's Sweet Piano Piece. Um, I'm great with names. I know I've said I'm good with names before. I'm great. I've upgraded myself just now. Can't undo it. Cannot be undone. I can only go up from here because I say so. This is another early one that I remember doing before any, real album stuff and whatever. It's one that stuck out to me. It's a simple thing to play. It's a catchy thing to play. And it's a neat tune. I don't think it's as great as some of the other ones I remember, but it's not bad at all. It's nice. If a tad repetitive and simple, it's nice. Has a preset drum track in the background of it, but that's okay. Also, I've just kind of realized that it is a little silly that I've set the camera up over here, and the microphone that's picking up my audio is over here. My light is over here. And I don't even I've never used this to record music before, so having it in the shot isn't even necessarily necessary. But the keyboard is, so for the sake of the rest of this episode, we're gonna keep everything in its fucked up place. This is okay. These things are a little fucked. We're gonna keep the other little fucked things in their fucking. Fuck. Lavandulaville was a song I made for Sam's Halloween Variety Hour 2. I believe it was for the second one. A lot of music went into it. A lot of effort and a lot of stuff went into that in general. But this was a song I made that was going to be part of background music or something if I needed it and whatever. And interestingly, like the riff, like essentially it's like the main riff, it's like us playing with this tone or whatever. There's a riff, and then it's basically the same riff played, but like at half speed and lower, like octave. There's like at least like 3 of those at least. There's like 3 or 4. And then soloing over it and stuff, and drums and whatever. But so that's kind of an interesting thing for like the composition of it was pretty simple. Doing that to see how that would sound, especially with the waviness of the tone, and also it kind of reminded me a bit the way it was sounding of like Lavender Town from the original Pokemon games. So that's kind of how they got the title Lavandulaville. Also, because the flower's like scientific name, I believe, is like the class is like Lavandula. So I did that. Lavender flower, Lavandula. I did that thing. And Lavandulaville is kind of like Lavender Town, but Ville instead of town. Pretty simple concepts there, I guess, but they came together in an okay way. I don't hate it. And neither should you. Jumpin Jam was the other unique song on Having a Jam. So I wanted to include it here as well, because it's a neat little catchy song. A bit repetitive again, but you can hear the same like tones with like the bass and the piano tones and using the preset whatever drums, but like that kind of vibe to it with that used for the whole album. And also a part a bit into the song, somewhere in the middle there, it goes into this other riff that is actually one I used later for the song Life is a Lie on the album Negative. We'll get there. But that's that. Also, I think this one vaguely sounds like the song Jenny or 8675309 by Tommy Two Tone. I could be totally wrong in like the progression of it, but like it sounds really similar to me. I haven't listened to them side by side or whatever back to back, but I'm thinking I may have liked it because it sounds kind of like that, or I just like that kind of progression in general, right? I definitely don't feel like I tried to rip this off in any way. Even subconsciously, I don't think I would have thought of it at the time. I just probably thought it sounded cool and that kind of progression. But maybe I'm totally off. Maybe it doesn't sound anything really like it, and I'm just remembering this totally wrong. But that may or may not be interesting depending on how close they sound. That's Jumpin Jam. Get you some pretty good scores in your game of Scrabble. Awesomer is the title track from the album Awesomer. That's what I meant to say. You notice by the stylization of the letters or whatever, the A, the S, the M, and the R are capitalized because it was just kind of a thing where I wanted to try and meld my ASMR stuff with my music to make stuff that would be kind of nice to listen to while you're trying to like sleep. And unlike the way of sleeping, which I believe actually was before I started doing ASMR, I think this one was definitely after. And I actually had a few of the songs with sound effects and stuff put under them as like different projects. But this was like the last song on it. Although it is weird that it gets a little loud at the end to do that, but I just really like the way it sounds and everything. And I just really wanted that to be like ending the album with like a really strong one. And actually the main riff in it you may recognize from a song I did later on. I believe it's on Thorn in You, I think is on that album. What I have to look now. It's but it's the song Place Bow, and it uses the same riff. And it does some other stuff under it and whatever, and do different things with it, but I just liked it so much. It's like, I want to make this into a song where I have words on it and stuff, even though this one I do sing a little bit on it. which one isn't purely instrumental, but it basically is. For a majority of the long song, it is. But that's why it's long, so you kind of be lulled into sleep by it and whatnot. And also what have you. So that's awesomer. And I never did another ASMR album after it because I didn't think anyone wanted it. Welcome to the Dream is the last song on The Way of Sleeping. Hey, that thing I mentioned before. So I thought it would be kind of neat to end it on that one. That was also an ending one. And it's got the high, like kind of have like a lot more of the high breathy things or whatever, like the high dinging bell things and like some higher note actually, yeah, like breathy, airy sounding instruments. And it's supposed to be like, the idea it's like it's the way of sleeping. It's like finally you've achieved the peak of sleeping there is that you're now dreaming. Is kind of the idea. But this is actually the alternate version of that song. Where the original one was all just instruments, and this one has, I think I maybe took out like one instrument or something and replaced it with like a drum track. And it just makes it feel a little bit catchier, so I used this one. But since the other one doesn't exist, elsewhere right now, I just decided to call it this without the alternate in the name of it, because the alternate one was the bonus track. But that's all of Surviving Sam. That's the stuff that survived through, the initial thing, turning it into Inventing Sam, where a lot of stuff just got axed because it didn't need to exist anymore, and now even more stuff was axed, and I've narrowed it down to stuff that I still like enough, and so that there'd be enough to fit onto, roughly 80 minutes of stuff for a CD, and we'll see how it goes this time, because, these didn't necessarily get that much attention the first time, so maybe they will now, maybe they won't, who knows. But at least I'll still have these out there as kind of an origins of like stuff I'm doing, and this stuff doesn't have to totally disappear. There's still inklings of things I did before without it having to be a whole bunch of stuff clogging up the space that people just aren't watching, So that's it, and hopefully we'll get some of the audio and lighting situation maybe better done. We'll see. It seems okay so far, but we'll see. And before you ask, yes, I do have other clothes. I just thought this would be good to have a unifying look. So it'd be like, hey, it's about the albums, because he's got the weird color jacket thing on and that one short. He's by the over here area. I can see at a glance what I'm getting into. Was my thought. So, I don't know. Hope you guys liked it. Leave whatever in the comments. And if you want, I guess I don't know if I'm going to timestamp these or not, but I'm definitely at least going to be putting, like links to like the playlist and like the different, like the individual songs and stuff in the descriptions. So let me know what you like and whatever, and check that stuff out if you'd like for the full songs and everything. And thanks for listening. The Surviving Sam artwork, once again done in MS Paint, using primarily the yellow for the background, blue for the I chose a CD just because I've been putting stuff on CDs, and it's another medium to put up there and to represent that it's more still like audio stuff of just like music, with a white shine mark and little like edge pieces in white, just to give it a little bit of extra detail, to have that hint of white. So simple stuff, but part of that early motif I'm doing of these compilation pieces. So hopefully that's cool and interesting, and Hopefully these little bonus things about the album art are still cool, because if not, oh no.